City Council District. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White, our Friday evening edition. We have on deck Mr. Allan Lengel.
Good evening. Good evening.
Deadline Detroit, as well as the Washington Post. I think I saw something in the paper today. I saw something on social media today. Deadline Detroit did a story. I think it was about the mayoral candidate. I'm not sure. Was it today or was it?
I can't remember. I've done so many stories.
Okay. All right. And we also have Jim Nardone. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening. Happy Friday. Hello, Karen, Joe Cool. We're lucky tonight. We have Congresswoman Stevens on. I can't wait to meet her and talk with her. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great.
She's in the background here. I think maybe we can let her on here.
Well, she's here.
Hey, welcome, Congresswoman Haley Stevens. Thanks for coming on tonight. Haley Stevens is going to spend about 20-25 minutes with us. She was elected to Congress first in 2018. She's been reelected ever since. She is now a Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate. Just a little background: before joining Congress, she was chief of staff to the U.S. Auto Rescue Task Force under the Obama administration, helped save GM and Chrysler and some jobs. And she has gotten the endorsement for the U.S. Senate, people like Joe Tate, some mayors like Lansing Mayor Andy Shore, Grand Rapids Mayor, and former Governor Jim Blanchard, and Nancy Pelosi, and 200 clergy members in the state of Michigan. So welcome.
Hey, I'm geeked to be here.
Well, we're geeked to have you. Let's start off, I guess, real quickly. And what's the issues in Michigan right now? What are you going out there and telling Michiganders how they should vote for you and what's important to them?
Yeah, why am I running to be Michigan's next U.S. Senator? Is Gary Peters is retiring. I'll tell you, it's a serious moment for our state right now, Allan, particularly at the federal level. We got an open U.S. Senate seat for next year. And the way I look at this is that Michigan needs to send its best deal maker, its chief lawmaker, its biggest champion to that chamber to make sure that our voice is heard, to make sure that we are respected at the lawmaking table. And frankly, so that we can restore trust as well. We need to continue to restore trust and to build trust. And one of the things that I'm know in my bones and know to be the reality of what I'm hearing in Michigan right now is that people are unsettled. It feels very uncertain right now at the federal level. And a lot of this is there's chaos coming from this administration. I mean, as I was weighing out, this Senate run, this is a real story. A fully paralyzed veteran reached out to me through a mutual friend asking me if he was still going to get his VA benefit check because of a billionaire with a chainsaw. I'm a daughter of small business owners. My parents met here in college at Oakland University. They started a landscape business. My dad still out there driving his Ford F-150 with Stevens Landscape on the side. And, he'd pick me up from after school, covered in dirt. I grew up around a lot of equipment and just that value of hard work. And that's who we are as Michiganders, is that we're the best workforce in the world. We're the most innovative, creative, exciting people. Every time they've counted us out, not only have we rebounded, but we've come back stronger.
Let me ask you this: we have some
goes for the country, right?
We have some Medicaid cuts coming as a result of the big beautiful bill or whatever it is, and that means partly, a lot of people in Michigan are going to go not only with healthcare but there are rural hospitals in Michigan, at least 3 of them, that rely heavily on Medicaid payments. What are we going to do about that?
Well, the other thing that we have to recognize that's going on right now is that we have healthcare costs already rising. And this stems from a bill that I vehemently disagreed with. It was Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. You have to remember, I'm running for U.S. Senate against Mike Rogers, who said that he is very eager to rubber stamp Donald Trump in everything that he does. I am eager to cut the best deal for all of us and the actual people, not just do tax cuts for billionaires. And we are going to have to solve this Medicaid issue. We are going to have to reinstate subsidies that were put into place for the Affordable Care Act. That's what's jacking up your healthcare costs right now. There's already headlines to this tune. There's already real stories I'm hearing from people. This is just another example of costs going up. And frankly, it's going to take strong leadership to push forward and say, hey, we're not voting for this budget deal unless we can get Medicaid back to its original funding levels. I personally have long thought that we need to expand Medicaid, that we need to lift some of the caps, particularly on the disabled community and what they're able to earn to be able to qualify for Medicaid. These are legacy costs, and these are real realities to people. And we have to take that seriously.
Vanessa.
Yes. Hi, good, Haley. How you doing?
That's awesome.
I met you. I know I met you at up at Mackinac a couple of years ago.
Yep.
How are you doing? Listen,
Okay.
our viewers here who are asking, who are you? Who is Haley Stevens? Could you give our audience an idea of who you are and how you came to be the person that's running for this office?
I love that. Thank you. I mentioned my parents a little bit, but they really are my best friends, and we're a close family. My parents, are no longer together, but I spend equal time with both of them. So Dad thinks he has me for all day on Sunday, and Mom, she's hilarious because she'd be just happy painting in her house all day. But once you get her on the phone, we're talking all the time. And look, in my core, my ethos has always been, how can I do the most good? I was a campaign kid. I was not the smartest person in the room, or trying to be the smartest person in the room. I just have always wanted to be the most hardworking. My dad's father was an Italian immigrant who came to Michigan to work at Ford. And my dad said he never complained a day in his life. Like, he just worked and worked and worked. And that's what I've sought to do. When I worked in the Obama administration on that auto rescue, it wasn't for a title. It was, I saw something going on in our state and I thought, how can I help? How can I, do something for Michigan in this moment? And I met the guy who was going to be doing the auto rescue, and he needed a chief of staff, and we set forward to do that initiative. And that's also what led me to run for Congress. I saw something really missing. I was dumbfounded with all these cuts coming to, our workforce and our industrial economy in 2017, another bad tax bill for our middle class. I took one look at it. I said, well, if Donald Trump can get to the presidency, I was like, maybe I can flip a House seat, which I did, as a Democrat. I flipped a seat that had actually voted for Donald Trump. I became the first Democrat since before the moon landing to hold that seat. And honestly, Vanessa, I just got right to work. Now, I don't only work. I got some hobbies, okay? I do like to read a good book on occasion. Sometimes I read the fiction. Right now, I'm reading the nonfiction.
What are you reading?
A book called Unchecked by Rachel Bade. It's recent history. And it's amazing because I lived through that history, but I'm so interested in structural reforms of our government. And, we were talking about the president's first administration and, some of the ways in which the pushbacks worked and some of the ways they didn't. And one of the things I want to work on in the Senate is how to make our government just work better for people. I mean, we can all see we're in a tough moment. I mean, we're at each other's throats, literally. And it's not acceptable. I mean, just, what happened in Minnesota this summer, what happened a couple of days ago on the college campus, real lives are being lost to political violence. And I don't think one leader is going to get us out of this, but my goodness, we got to work for it together. So yeah, no, I collect books. I like them signed, but I also am I have a little gym I go to in Clawson. It's a great gym, Burn Fitness. If you ever want to find me, that's where I am.
All right, Jim, you have any questions?
I did. I had a question. Nice to meet you, Congresswoman.
Nardone.
A couple of points. One, Karen Winston's a viewer. She's a retiree from the city of Detroit. She's asking what you think about the pension, but that's where I wanted to go with my point. I want you to talk, when we get in these political campaigns, we don't get to talk about as much of what we accomplish. It turns into a lot of rhetoric. Mm-hmm. Tell the people about the Butch-Lewis Act and your involvement. Down here, I'm in Trenton. McLeod Steele was here. We know what PBGC stands for, all right?
Yeah, you do.
To tell the people what you've done so they can understand what you've accomplished there.
Yeah, the PBGC, the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, something that I became very familiar with during my Obama auto rescue days as well. And we need to make sure our PBGC is fully funded and living up to its promises of pension guarantees. And I'll tell you, I became really close to the Butch-Lewis effort during my first run for Congress. This is our multi-employer pension plan that, frankly, had been put into arrears during the Great Recession period. It had not gotten resolved, and it was a real pain point. And this is the beautiful thing about our country. This is honestly one of the most beautiful things, which is I put up my hand to run for office, like I said, it was a competitive process to get there. It wasn't a given. We made it happen. But during the course of it, the story I was writing for myself and for the campaign was, how can I solve some of these issues that have been forgotten or left by the wayside or have just been kicked down the road? And I don't know what it was, but I said to myself, if I get there, I want to do pensions. I want to work on Butch-Lewis. I got on the Education and Labor Committee. I got on the Pension Subcommittee. And all I did was I brought my energy to an issue. And I was writing leadership about it. And I said, Butch-Lewis. And, some of the guys who had been there for a long time, they said, oh my gosh, we've been working on this for so long, Stevens. We're so glad you're here. They got me to lead the rebuttal on the House floor. The Teamsters Union, I don't know if they're even still playing that rebuttal in their union halls, but it was this manifestation of an action to get this done. And how we got it done was actually in the Rescue Act at the very beginning of 2021. And, it was very comprehensive. The lesson there, though, is that we still need to do more for pensions. And for our individual tuning in from Detroit and their pensions, this state has worked very hard to work on the taxes and the fees that have been put into place with pensions. But we need to actually go back and look at, at the federal level, our cities and some of our better ways in which we can, keep our pensions solvent and the like. A lot of times those deals end up getting cut at the county level, but there's also a lot of people on Wall Street who are benefiting because Detroit has a pension program. That pension program goes off our stock market. And I'll just stop and say this. This is one of the reasons why I really want to see these big AI companies worth $1 trillion, coming in with their data centers. They need to go public. They need to go public. We need to push them to get onto the stock market so people like our Detroit pensioners can profit off of what, just a very few are profiting off of right now, but something that we're all paying for because we're helping to provide the energy and the resources for it. So as you can tell, I got an agenda for when I get to the Senate on another pension point. Yes, it's nice to have accolades, but I'm also in the business of thank you, what have you done for me today? And there's more to do.
Let me ask you this about crime, and particularly, some of our viewers in Detroit. where it's a big concern. A lot of time we see what's happening where the National Guard is being sent in, and there's pushback to that. And some of the cities are saying, no, thank you, our crime is down. But us, crime down is not the answer when you still have Detroit had over 200 murders last year. What's the solution? Would you favor guards coming in or federal agents helping with task forces? What do you see as the plan to address it?
What I'm pushing for with all of these deployments, and some of it's the National Guard and some of it's the military, is that this president has got to remember that we have a system of checks and balances, and that he cannot just abuse his authority by unilaterally deploying the military or the National Guard without working in coordination with state and local law enforcement. What we've seen repeatedly with his deployments is that they seem hyper political, and they're not collegial. I mean, it's not hard to meet local officials where they are. If Congress can't pass gun safety legislation, then let's explore better ways to deploy resources. I sat down this summer with leaders in Detroit who are a part of community violence intervention initiatives, mentors. I'm going to tell you right now, Allan, seeing those cuts to low cost programs, frankly, in the grand scheme of things, programs that need funding that are now being cut because we're rolling back, the partnership from the federal level, which is also impacting our state budget. That is also leading to upticks in violence. Cuts to local law enforcement is also something that we're dealing with, which I've heard from leaders in Wayne County and in the city of Detroit. And so can we start with that? And can we just start with a simple conversation? I think our leadership in this state has shown that they are open. We all want what's best for Michigan. You don't need someone from the tippy top coming in, though, and telling us what we need without listening to us. We really need that listening ear here.
How about, go ahead, Vanessa. Question.
Well, can we take a break and then we'll come back with your question, Allan? Can we take a break?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Homeownership opportunities are rising in the city of Detroit, and there's a house out there that's right for you and your family. You don't even have to worry about credit or getting a loan. You can win a house for as little as $1,000 and pay for the renovation cost as you go. It all starts at buildingdetroit.org and the Detroit Land Bank Authority. Our auction and Own It Now programs offer a variety of houses and neighborhoods all over the city of Detroit. These homes are in desperate need of repair and new ownership. You can begin by going to our interactive map and detailed property listings to find the right fit for you. It won't be easy, and renovation costs are not cheap, but our compliance team is there every step of the way. We will help you track your progress and connect you with local discounts to save you more money. We have already sold more than 15,000 homes in the city of Detroit, and our inventory is shrinking fast, so you don't want to miss out on this wonderful opportunity. Start your home buying journey today by visiting buildingdetroit.org. Homeowners.
Okay, I've been to ask you a question about tariffs and how it impacts Michigan, but let's go to one of our viewers here, Eric Brown, who asked, what involvement in Detroit or any urban community have you been involved in prior to wanting our vote?
Yeah, well, I'm very proud to have represented 1.5 million people in the state of Michigan as I've been a member of Congress. And I work very closely with all of my communities. I'm very proud to have Pontiac in my district right now. And it's got some of an urban feel to it. And we know that there are some similarities and shared experiences that Pontiac has on an urban journey. And I've worked with that city regularly to get funding for infrastructure needs and community resource needs like youth centers. In terms of Detroit, I'm showing up in Detroit every chance I can get. I think Eric is spot on. Michigan needs a senator, and that means that we've got to look at this for all 83 counties and through our large urban corridors. As Allan mentioned, I have been endorsed by the mayor of Grand Rapids, Lansing, and about a dozen other mayors in and around Southeast Michigan and across our state. And I'm asking for the vote for next year, but you are spot on, Eric. I have got to earn it. And so that is about showing up. I have been showing up prior to. I was proud to get endorsed by the Michigan Democratic Party Black Caucus. My friend Keith Williams, he made a point to say that anytime he calls, I pick up, we brainstorm, we work on things together. And I'm not a top-down gal. I'm a bottom-up person. What that means is be in neighborhoods, be at community events. I mean, I show up where I'm not expected because I'm so eager to meet people where they're at.
Let me ask you, in terms of Trump has been trying to, his theory is on tariffs, I'm going to tariff the hell out of everybody outside of the U.S., and so that'll create more jobs and more manufacturing. Do you see the tariffs working here in Michigan where there is going to be more manufacturing as a result, or do you see more harm that the tariffs are creating here in Michigan?
I think my biggest concern with Donald Trump's economic policy is that he really doesn't know the first thing about what it means to be a Midwesterner, what it means to be a Michigander. He has repeatedly shown that he is out of touch with people who live on Social Security or people who work union jobs. 55 tariff announcements in 100 days have created a lot of uncertainty. We lost 10,000 jobs in Mundy, Michigan, that I was talking to the Detroit Carpenters Union about. They were saying that was going to be a decade of work for them to build out that plant. And the reason we didn't get that plant is because they cited tariffs. And, you know, we keep hearing this president say that he's cutting a deal with every single country. And he, you know, it's like, where's your deal for Michigan? You know, we see the big three a lot of times in this tariff environment now, they've been posting losses. I was just on a Made in Michigan tour during my August in-state period of, you know, being able to do work alongside constituents. And I will tell you, from small to mid-sized manufacturers who I was meeting with, they are feeling the ramifications of this. And so I really believe that true industrial policy looks like what I got done with the Chips and Science Act, which was in investments that the federal government made alongside the private sector, that they more than matched. They like quadrupled it. And that's the way we can create jobs, not just barking at every country every other day and forgetting who actually needs the jobs, and that's us here in Michigan.
Does it concern you on foreign policy when we see China, Russia, North Korea sort of looking for alternatives to the U.S. because the tariffs are so punitive? Does that concern you that we're creating more enemies with tariffs?
I found that meeting very alarming. And I really believe that the United States and Michigan in particular is going to play a huge role in this. Needs to continue to lead the free world through our innovation, our economic engine, our manufactured products. We want to bring other open free market democracies like India closer to us, not racing into the arms of China. And I have a lot of concerns about that meeting and what the president was doing while that meeting was happening, which was, I'm pretty sure, posting AI memes on his Truth Social account. It's just not going to cut it for us. And I'm not here to just dog the guy, okay? I mean, it's just that this stuff isn't working for us. I mean, we really have outside of Metro Detroit, I want to preface this, outside of Metro Detroit, we have some of, that includes Detroit, obviously, we have some of the fastest growing unemployment in the nation right now. I am watching this like a hawk. This is what is keeping me up at night. Why is this happening? It is happening because of reckless chaos from the Trump administration.
Vanessa?
I have two questions. One of our viewers, Stephanie Jackson, asked, does it concern you that most of our products are made in China in the U.S.? Does that concern you?
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why I wrote legislation called the Unearth America's Future Act. I am running for U.S. Senate, but I'm a federal lawmaker in the United States House of Representatives, and I've authored and introduced over 20 bills this year already, because I I like being effective and I like serving people. And my bill called the Unearth America's Future Act is what I'm calling the CHIPS Act for minerals, to lessen our manufacturing dependence on China and to bring the processing and refining of critical elements, critical minerals, like think lithium and gallium and germanium, that get turned into critical materials that go into our cars, that go into our cell phones, that go into, fighter jets and on. We send 95% of those minerals over to China. They process and refine it into materials and sell it back to us. That's ridiculous. There's a guy over in Harper Woods who I've been working with, who's got a business interest that wants to come here to Michigan in space. My legislation will do loan guarantees, tax credits. It will lessen our dependence on China. It will create jobs, and it will lower costs. Most importantly, we need to be lowering costs right now.
So my second question is, it's a statement that you made early on, and you're talking about how people are literally going after each other, it's partisan politics. How do you see your role as a senator? Okay, I'm going to speak it into existence, in bridging that gap or bridging the divide.
Look, there's a lot of thought about this topic right now, and I want to meet the moment in which we're in, because there's a group that rightfully feels like we shouldn't be letting rights get trampled and our democracy being meddled with, and that we've got to play hardball even in the minority party. I also think that it is up to our elected leaders to set a tone. And I will tell you all very clearly, because I'm now in my fourth term, I have a bipartisan track record. I have a bill on my wall that President Trump signed. I also have bills that President Biden signed. And I'm the only one running for Senate who can say that. Now, in this term and in this moment, what I'm doing is I'm not just giving away my vote. They're not asking for my vote, and so I'm not giving it to them. Because it in most respects, as Allan mentioned, Medicaid is being cut, food assistance is being cut, manufacturing investments are being cut, nothing's being done on pensions. There's a lot of games, and until we can get better deals for Michigan's unique economy, and until I can get some of the things that I've been working on that are bipartisan, I'm not just rolling over right now in this environment. And to be able to do that as a United States Senator, Vanessa, carries a lot more weight. And there's a way to be strategic. And so, again, when we think about as Michiganders, who is going to be our most effective deal maker, I believe that is me, Haley Stevens.
Okay, well, we want to thank you. We have so many. There's so many other issues that next time we're going to have you back again. We'd like to talk about the Middle East, about Ukraine, but I think we've run out of time here. But we want to thank you. Any last questions, Vanessa?
Yes, I just want to make a comment. One of our viewers, I just want to acknowledge it. Helena Yaboa, she says, hi there. She just wanted to say how much she admires what you've shared on your page. Oh, goodness. It moved.
You guys have a great show, by the way.
It's thoughtful, inspiring, and really caught her attention. She'd really love to connect as friends so I can keep learning from you and enjoying more of your posts. Looking forward to the request and seeing more of what you share.
Okay. We're gonna. I know people want to talk about Israel and all that stuff, but like I said, that's another show, or at least another segment. So we appreciate you coming on.
And, we can absolutely come back and talk about that.
Okay, great. And I know that's such a crucial
about my record.
Yeah, it's a crucial issue, and of course we want to talk about it more. But we'll have you back again. We appreciate you coming on the show, and good luck. Have a great weekend. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. There was a lot of comments, very long comments, and we weren't able to get it, but hopefully she'll go back and watch the replay, and she'll be able to answer some of those questions, and address some of the statements when she comes back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I was Israel. She's a supporter of Israel, and I know some people are not, and some people have questions about AIPAC and all that, and we'll get to that next time. And I know she wants to address it. So
right, and she should expect that, because people do have those kind of
absolutely, and I know she's well into it. She's expected to.
Yeah.
And she has a bill too. In fact, right now it's Stop Trump's Abuse of Power Act, and I'd like to have her talk a little bit about that, because that has to do with the National Guard and restricting the president's opportunity to place National Guard troops in all our cities, and I appreciate that. And we were talking a little bit about that before the show, and Mike Rogers. I was a little surprised as a former police officer that Mike Rogers would be in support of that, considering he was what I thought a career FBI agent. He is not a career FBI agent. He only worked at the FBI for 5 years, and probably a half a year of that, Allan and I spoke about it, is training. Right. So now I understand why he feels like it's okay for the National Guard, because he doesn't have the kind of experience necessary to make that decision, in my point of view.
Right. So hopefully Haley Stevens will read this comment. As Allan, you indicated, this is a lot of concern for people. Says Haley Stevens is a stalwart supporter of Israel and accuses its critics of anti-Semitism. She voted to sanction the International Criminal Court in response to arrest warrants being issued for war crimes in Gaza concerning Benjamin Netanyahu. Moreover, Haley Stevens is supported by pro-Israel lobby AIPAC. Nonetheless, there is no way that anyone, especially from the African American Black community, should be voting to send her to Congress.
Well, she's already there.
Yeah, she's already in Congress, and I think but yeah.
Yeah, I think Israel, Israel's a controversial thing. I don't think it's exclusively. I don't think it's all Black people are against Israel and all Black people aren't for it. In the same way that all white people or even Jewish people are all supporting. I'm Jewish. I don't support Netanyahu. I think what he's doing. I also don't support Hamas. I do support a Palestinian state. I support the right for Israel to exist. The war needs to end. The hostages need to be returned. That's sort of the simplification of it. But the longer the war goes on, there's no good that comes from that. So,
and we have some of our friends that we haven't seen in a bit, like Marlon. Welcome back, Marlon. Like my music, we missed you on the last show. Lucky for me, because he probably would have been fighting me. He's right about the palliative care crisis. He's absolutely right. DC is better. What's DC? I don't think he's talking about Dan Campbell. Are you, Marlon? Kashmir, read Parr's comment. Lack of legislation, lack of judiciary oversight, lack of department. Gula Geechee. Miss Sheila Deed fraud, what's your position? Unfortunately, we didn't get to that question, Miss Sheila. We apologize for that. And Marlon, why is Detroit out of control? Why is Detroit failing? Well, Helena. Hi, Helena.
Right. So
I'm sorry, go ahead, Vanessa.
So someone asked the question, why is Detroit failing? And I'm going to throw the question back out there. You think it's failing, but by all accounts, especially when we're looking at the candidates, they're saying everything is gravy. The candidates for mayor, or at least one of them. And when you talk about the current mayor, everything in Detroit is gravy. So I don't know what you're talking about. And yes, I am stirring the pot.
Well, today, Reverend Kinlock had a press conference, a virtual one on Zoom. And so one of the things that came out of it, which I haven't had a chance to write up, one is that there's going to be they've agreed to at least one debate. They're trying to get a second debate going. Mildred Gaddis was asking, well, you were too nice in the first, in the primary, are you going to take it up? And they've indicated that they're going to be more aggressive going after Mary Sheffield and saying that she has, attacking her for saying she hasn't done enough. He laid out stuff that he's talked about previously about addressing poverty and creating more actual true affordable housing, which, the term affordable housing, as we know, is basically you can have affordable housing that costs $1,200 for an apartment.
Right.
That's considered affordable in Detroit, because there are now, as we see on the riverfront where the Joe Louis is, some of those apartments are like $4,000 or $5,000. We're seeing at the Westin, they're really expensive. The condos are up to over $1 million in the Westin Hotel, and so what becomes affordable is in the eyes of the beholder at some point. But there is true affordable where you can move into so he's trying to do that. But I think that there's a very short runway for Kinloch, and I asked him. I said, look, Mary had 51%, you had 17%. How do you make that up? And he's saying, well, that was only a small percentage of voters who came out. I think he's hoping for a bigger turnout. I don't know that he's going to be able to flip that 51% into convincing them. I'm sure there's some to be loosened from that. It's not 100% solid, but it's a pretty substantial lead, even though it's the primary and you have more people in the general election. But in an off year where the president's not running, it's still harder to get people out.
Yeah.
Can I go back to power orgs for just a second, Vanessa?
Yeah, go ahead.
He made a comment. Yeah, she's in Congress already. So I guess the distinction part, I was asking if you want her to be removed from the House of Representatives. I guess she has to step down, right? Because that's a 2-year term.
Yeah.
So that's where my distinction was. Do you want her gone from politics completely, or do you want her? I guess you want her gone. I guess that's the point. And who was it? There was a good point here. Somebody, Stephanie Jackson. Thank you, Stephanie. This Black person supports Israel. We appreciate that comment. I guess. What does that? I mean, what does that mean? Support Israel? What? Allan, give us some guidance there.
Well, I'll tell you when you're supporting
That's
Israel.
what you have to answer it. Trust me, she's getting ready to tell you what she
Good
thinks.
for her.
Well, I'm going to tell you that, look, I mean, Israel is a strategic partner. I know Israel and the U.S. share intelligence in terrorism and all that. Obviously, U.S. has supported Israel, and there's a very close relationship there. They're a strategic partner. I mean, we have partners. We have alliances with Qatar. We have a base in Qatar or whatever, but we can't rely on them totally that they're always going to be with us. We have alliances with Egypt, which we give Egypt a lot of money as we do Israel. Egypt gets a lot of funding from the U.S. We have alliances with Jordan, but in the end, we're not guaranteed with some of the countries like Egypt and Jordan that they're always going to be on our side, regardless, where Israel is always the ally that is always going to be on our side, regardless of difference.
But I think that's the point. I think that's Stephanie's point. And, Derek Henry weighed in, I will never support genocide. So when she says she supports Israel, that doesn't mean she supports genocide. I think there's a distinction there, right?
Yeah. I think, look, I'll say, I don't support Netanyahu. I don't support he has some fascist people in the administration, much like I don't support Trump, and I don't support some of the people who support him, but I'm a supporter of America. And the same thing with, I think Israel has the right to exist. It's my opinion. Not everybody agrees with that, but it doesn't mean you have to support all the policies. I don't support all the policies of America. I don't support all the policies right now that are going on with Israel, but I do support the right for Israel to exist.
And thank you, Stephanie, for your contribution. I appreciate her position.
Yeah. So I'm just going to veer off a little bit because we're on every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, and we're here stating our opinion, which is our First Amendment right. And so, there's been a lot of talk here in the last 24 hours about the
Charlie
murder of Charlie Kirk. And so I find it extremely disturbing, the hypocrisy of it all. And what I mean by that is He's gone, and that's unfortunate. It's really sad. Uh, but when people point out that he talked terribly about the LGBTQ community, some would say that he's a racist. He talked very badly about George Floyd, who died at the hands of a police officer, and he had young children, right? I find it just the level of hypocrisy is just out here. It's just very disturbing to me that it was okay. People are taking up for him, saying, "How dare you say that he did this as if he deserved this?" I have not. The people that I've seen that made comments, they have not said that he deserved it. What they've said is, "Listen, when you talk like this, and this is the reality, when we exercise our First Right Amendment, freedom of speech, there's consequences to it, right? And we don't get to say what the consequences are going to be. Unfortunately for him, it ended up in his death. But it bothered me today to see all of this hypocrisy. It just does. I think it's ridiculous. Go ahead, Allan.
I'll agree with you, and I want to show you guys a couple things here. My feeling is, and I said this last time on the show, is that I don't condone the killing of him, because when we condone that, then if somebody wants to shoot AOC or Bernie Sanders, they can say the same thing, that there were radical thoughts. I didn't like their thoughts, therefore they deserve to die. He didn't deserve to die for it, but to hail him as this great leader of free speech and stuff like that is great. Some people see that, but I want to show you one of the things here, and I'll read it. It says what he said: Black women like Joy Reid, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Michelle Obama used affirmative action because they do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. So they had to steal a white person's slot. I mean, if that's not racist, and people are applauding him, saying, "Oh, he's out on
racist." I thought it was very ignorant.
Well, whatever you want to call it, it's not
racist, ignorant, all of it.
Yeah. And so, when Ezra Klein, who I used to work with at the Washington Post, is at the New York Times, wrote a column saying that he admires him for being, he says, I don't agree with a lot of stuff he says, but I admire him for going out there and creating dialogue and stuff like that. I say, great, he's creating dialogue and stuff like that, but the dialogue he's creating was very toxic, and encourage people to say, yeah, I feel the same way about that. I feel the same bigoted feelings, and I'm not challenging myself. So I don't condone in any way the killing. And like I say, we start killing people because we don't like what they're thinking, we're gonna have a lot more dead people than we already have through violence, and we don't need that kind of violence in our country.
What do you say, Jim? What's your comment on this?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts, but I was down a rabbit hole today, and I found some. I know very little about this young man. He wasn't my cup of tea. All right, I thought he was abrasive and abusive, but I don't know as much about him as everyone thinks they know about him. Right? He made that comment, Allan, when you sent that this morning. I looked it up. It's not exactly what the quote says. He did say that, yeah, but he was referring to the action of another human being. I'm not making excuses for him, but there's more. There could be more to the story. Every time there's a story, and when I hear people saying things like what I heard tonight, I would have done it myself if I had the opportunity. He deserved to die, and people dancing and jumping around and smiling and everything. That doesn't say anything about Charlie Kirk. Right. That doesn't say anything about Donald Trump. That says something about them, and people are very disturbed, and it's unfortunate. And that's why we're in the situation we are in.
Right.
Look, we've had over the years. I mean, the ACLU defended the Nazis' rights to march in Skokie, Illinois, because of the Constitution, that they had the right to do it, and they marched through Jewish neighborhoods, intentionally antagonizing them. Could people have turn to violence? They didn't. And the ACLU, which has a lot of Jewish lawyers, I'm sure was holding their nose while they were doing it, but they appreciated the rights, the constitutional rights. Can I play a real quick thing from Jon Stewart that he just put out here?
One is too many. One death. By the way, true. It is too many. Violence should never be accepted. It should never be tolerated. But that's for their issue. In the wake of Sandy Hook and Uvalde and Parkland and El Paso and Lewiston and Aurora and Buffalo and Boulder and Binghamton and Highland Park and Monterey Park and San Bernardino and San Jose and San Francisco and the Pulse nightclub and the Colorado Springs nightclub and the Little Rock nightclub and the Borderline Bar in Thousand Oaks and the Ned Peppers Bar in Dayton and the Waffle House in Nashville and Virginia Tech and UVA and MSU and UCSB and FSU and NIU and SMC and the...
And Cain killed Abel.
Well, I just think the point
Cain
is,
killed Abel. It's been a violent world.
I know you're well. I think the point is that the outrage is it's great. There should be. I don't take away from the outrage over the shooting of Charlie Kirk, but when we have shootings in other places, in churches and synagogues, in the elementary school in Sandy Hook, the outrage is just kind of like, now we're so numb to it. I mean, there was just a shooting, we've become so numb. It's so every day now, I mean, we had the Oxford school shooting, which was closer to us, but we had the Walmart stabbing, over there, but it's just so common that it's not the biggest news of the day anymore.
Terry McCrimmon made a great point. Terry, I want you to do a quick search, because there is a gentleman talking about the Black Panthers in Oakland. His name is Dr. Cornel West. He was on our show. He was a candidate for president of the United States. You'll get some really good insight if you look up Cornel West, Black Panthers, Oakland, gun control. You'll see there is somebody standing up and talking about the rights of the Black Panthers back in Oakland and why they got gun control in California at that time with Reagan, and the Democrats worked together to take guns out of the hands of Black people.
Well, I want to go to Derek Henry's comment. Good evening, Derek Henry. Derek said in his own words, he's talking about the decedent. He said in his own words, he said to protect the Second Amendment, it's expected to have some shooting deaths. He's absolutely correct.
Well, that's what he was saying. Charlie Kirk was saying.
That's a ridiculous statement. I think it's a ridiculous statement.
Okay.
Nobody should die. Nobody should die from the violence of another human being.
That's the difference. He said it's expected to have some shooting deaths. Should it happen? No. Is it expected? I believe it's true.
Yeah.
I just put the point out.
No, I mean it's look, he was saying that's the collateral damage that you do for the right to have the Second Amendment and guns, and he says we're going to lose people. But I mean, I agree with Jim. It's a hard statement to make out there, and some people, in fact, an Oak Park judge, a district court judge had made the statement saying he lived by his words, and then she quoted him, and then the head of the Oakland County Republican Party said she should resign for saying that. And I think the problem is we're defending Charlie Kirk's right of free speech and to say whatever he wants, and at the same time now people are saying stuff and they're being canceled or attempting to be canceled for saying what they want.
Right.
About that.
And what they did was all that judge did was repeat what he said. It's not like she said it because that's what she says. This is what this guy says. But the hypocrisy, as I stated, of it all just burns my britches. It angers me. The other part of that is he was a young man. He was 31 years old. We have no idea what his life would have been like as a 45-year-old, because most of us evolve. As we get older, we change and that kind of thing. And his life was shortened by whoever this individual was right? His life was shortened. What'd you say, Jim?
Except Allan and me.
But his life
We
was
have a-
shortened um, by whoever this individual is. I think they said that they have somebody. The young man that they have was a 22-year-old. His father turned him in. His father said that he admitted that he did it. 22.
And how about that family's grief? And how about what? There's not just one
Hey,
family that's living through this.
yes,
There's two families, and
absolutely.
I don't make excuses for the killer, but can you imagine being his dad and walking your son into a police station knowing he's either going to be killed or he'll
Right.
never see the light of day again? So I have some empathy for that family too. And I
Same
think
here. Same here.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. They say he was an A student in high school. He had gone hunting. He was familiar with weapons, and maybe you can explain. He used a rifle with one shot and a scope. And I don't know how sophisticated these guns are now. I know some have the lasers and all that, which help with the accuracy. I don't know if they have rifles. Jim, do you know?
I'm sorry.
I was saying, do you know, are there a rifle like that, would it have a laser on it?
They're saying it was a Mauser, 30-06 Mauser, which would have had fixed sights. And originally they were saying 200 yards. And, I had a conversation today. 200 yards turns into 100 yards, turns into 70 yards. So we really don't know how far away he was. We just don't know. It could have been a fixed sight. I never operated with lasers and scopes. We didn't have that in the police department. We had fixed sights, but now they do have those red dot lasers even for handguns. So I'm not sure that I don't really know that much about it. Terry made a comment about Dr. West. I was talking about a particular, not trying to insult you there, Terry. I was talking about a particular little clip online with Dr. West, which I thought was fascinating, but I don't know, Allan. My guess is it was a fixed sight. It was a Mauser, which is a German weapon.
I mean, one shot and he hit it right on. I mean, I don't know that he was that skilled, or the weapons have become so sophisticated that you don't even have to be a sniper trained in the military to take a shot like that.
My guess he was closer than what they claimed, probably less than half as far as what they claimed he was away. That would be my guess initially. They always say it's it's a half a mile shot. The guy that they made a movie about, I can't think of his name, the military guy that got murdered at the gun range. That's a guy who can hit somebody from, half a mile away. There's probably not 50 people in this country that can make a shot like that. So
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if he was more than 70 or 80 yards away. It was like Kennedy, right? The guy was a lot closer than people thought. So the guy that was a lot closer that shot Trump was a lot closer than what they described him as too. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's scary, but I think it's interesting now. Where does America go from there? There's a lot. I mean, all the former presidents all put out statements. Bush, Clinton, Biden, Obama put out statements saying this is horrible. This is unacceptable. This is not what America is. And Trump went out and said, it's the fucking, left people, and trying to just pour gasoline on the fire, which,
we have no idea why he did it. And we may never know.
No, we don't. People are speculating, but unless he's the only one that knows why he did it, and he will be the only one that will be able to explain why he did it. But one of the comments was, I think you said, Allan, where do we go from here? And as I indicated the other night, and I think Jim even alluded to it this evening, violence has always been a part of America. And I think where we go from here is we're going to keep going. There's not going to be any legislation that's going to make deaths like these any different. And I'm talking about, gun legislation. There's no legislation that's going to make it any different. People who hate are going to hate and act out. And, that's the bottom line.
We have to just go ahead, Allan.
I was going to say, I think one of he came from a Mormon family. I think his parents were registered Republicans. He was recently, they say, the family was saying, he became more political. He was concerned about fascism. And he had mentioned, I think, at a family dinner or something, that this guy was coming to campus. And I don't know if he was concerned about it or whatever, but, you know, he could have handled it another way. He could have gone there and pulled out a bullhorn and started screaming some stuff, or thrown an egg at him, or a Subway sandwich at him or something to get his attention. I mean, obviously this was the most extreme form of getting attention for this issue. But I think I don't think he's a radical leftist guy, but I think, like I say, he came from a Mormon family. He was an A student in high school. I don't know that he was what people are going to try to make him out to be, this radical leftist. I don't think he's that.
We don't know. Terry asked a question about the young people.
I was just going to say, Jim,
young men. I don't have an answer. Are they being programmed? I don't have the answer, because every individual is different. That's what I was going to say earlier, is that every death is a tragedy. It doesn't matter if it's an 8-year-old, a 64-year-old walking out of a liquor store in Los Angeles. That's just as big a tragedy as Charlie Kirk or anybody else. Absolutely. Once we decide that every death is important as the next, maybe we can get to fix it.
Absolutely. And with that being said, you know, that's what you don't like my music. His statement is along the same vein. He said there are much more innocent victims than Charlie, whose names we will never know or care about.
And I'm not trying to minimize his death. I'm just suggesting that people die every day and they don't need to, and we need to figure out a way to stop it. And that's my frustration, is it doesn't seem like anybody's willing to stop it.
Kashmir has a question for you. Good evening, Kashmir. Kashmir says, Allan, how do you define fascism?
I find fascism as somebody who's ignores the rules, is really a dictator, and overrides what the laws are, and dictates to people how they should think and how they should, be governed, without, taking away. I think we see some of the checks and balances in this administration are being eliminated, and I'm not saying it's outright fascism, but there are certainly signs. I mean, we see, and Jim may disagree with me, but on January 6th, we see all these convictions that were overturned, including assaults on police. And at the same time, we have the FBI director and the attorney general who have fired federal prosecutors and FBI agents who have prosecuted those cases. There are some high-level FBI agents now who have filed lawsuits, are now claiming that they were questioned whether they voted for Trump, whether they were loyal to Trump, and we've never seen that before. And it's you're overstepping some of the institutions.
I completely agree with you, Allan. Everything you said. So.
Oh wow. I'm speechless. So wow. It's not. No. Eric said, "What's up with the barking sounds in the background?"
Oh, that's my back door's open. I'm getting some cool air. Sorry.
Yeah.
My neighbor.
And that's okay. They need to have.
I can close my door.
Right. They're talking. Okay. Your neighbor's pets, fur babies are talking. So you know what? I'm a little tired today. That's why I'm not as animated as I usually am. Hopefully, I'll be able to get some rest tonight, and we'll be back in the lab tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Why don't you tell us who we have? Who do we have for tomorrow?
Tomorrow we're supposed to have, her name is, let me make sure I have it right. Hold on.
All right. Well,
thank you, MR 1213, for your question. We're not.
Brenda Ross Andrews. And she's going to talk about something that we just talked about, not necessarily gun legislation, but gun safety. And she's had some ideas. She worked as a deputy in Wayne County. Also, she was the head of Noble. And was that the Noble, some kind of...
It's a Black association.
Yes, National Organization of... She's very impressive. She has a very impressive, Yes.
So she's going to come in, and this is how much of an impact our show has. And listen, I didn't say it tonight, but I'm gonna say it right now. If you're watching Detroit in Black and White, you know what we want you to do: like, subscribe, and share. Thank you, Janet, for already sharing. But we want you to join tomorrow and tell everybody about Detroit Black and White. Yesterday, I went to a fundraiser, and as I was standing there at the fundraiser for someone that's running for city council, that would be Tyrone Carter. I'm supporting him. He's in my district. I went to his fundraiser last evening. I had 3 people walk up to me, and they knew me from Detroit in Black and White. I don't know these people, but these people are actually watching our show. So you know what I
You know them. They're your
make
friends.
sure, look,
What district?
like, subscribe, and share. And actually, that's how I met our guest for tomorrow. She was one of the people walked up to me. It's like, hey, I know you. I'm like, I don't know you, but okay, you know.
Go ahead, Alan, because I want to say one quick thing.
What district is that?
District 6. Tyrone is in District 6.
Who's running? Who are the candidates?
Gabriel Santiago, and it's just them 2.
So it's downtown, Southwest.
Yes.
Okay.
He lives in Southwest. I've known him for years. He was a Wayne County deputy.
Yes, former Wayne County. I just wanted to say before we leave, I'm really, I don't know if concern's the right word, upset about the situation with Garland Gilchrist. You know, if people are attacking Garland Gilchrist,
we did talk about that. Yeah,
he's as you know, I don't know him that well. I met him a few times. He's as decent and a good human being as you're going to come in contact. You may not agree with him politically, but that's ridiculous that they would target his family with a bomb threat. I just don't get it.
Yeah, and you know why I meant to bring that up? It's horrible. It is horrible.
If they're going after Garland Gilchrist, they'll go after anybody.
Yeah. You wonder why. I mean, he is a gentleman. There's no question.
That's why I said, listen, we're on this show. People may not agree with what you say, Alan, Jim, myself, or Adolph, you know, because he makes some very controversial statements. But to think that people get so pissed off that they want to take your life away, it's very concerning.
Great comments tonight. Thanks everybody.
Yeah, Mr. 123, I see he's supporting Gabriel Santiago. I'm not, but okay, great. All right. Well, join us tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock from 10 to 11. Detroit Black and White. Tell all your friends about the greatest show on what these YouTube streets. We will see you tomorrow. We have had a few people ask us about Adolph. Adolph is great. He is traveling. He and his wife are traveling. They'll be back soon. So he's on a little vacation. So we'll see you Saturday morning. Thank you.
I'm going to snuggle with the dog next door.
All right.